In the headlines this hour on VTV News, party chief pays tribute to former Laos top leader in Vientiane. Vietnam to deploy timely, effective countermeasures against U.S. tariffs. And man rescued after 120 hours trapped in earthquake rubble.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello, it's 8 a.m. local time in Hanoi. You're watching VTV News. Party General Secretary Tô Lâm led a high-ranking delegation of the party and state of Vietnam to Vientiane on Thursday to pay respect to former president of the Laos People's Revolutionary Party's Central Committee and former president of Laos, Siphandone, who passed away on Wednesday.
On behalf of the party, state, and people of Vietnam, Party General Secretary Tô Lâm expressed profound sorrow over the passing of former president of the Lao People's Revolutionary Party, former state president, and former Prime Minister of Lao Siphandone. He extended heartfelt condolences to the high-ranking leaders and people of Laos, and the late leader's family, who played a pivotal role in building the Lao Revolution, leading the National Democratic Revolution, and safeguarding and developing the country. He was also a pioneer in implementing the LPRP's comprehensive renewal policy, and a loyal, close and steadfast friend of Vietnam who stood shoulder to shoulder with the Vietnamese people through their struggles for national protection and the nation building. The former Lao leader's passing is a great loss to the party, state, people of both countries. To honor his legacy and contributions to Vietnam-Laos relations, the Vietnamese top leader announced that Vietnamese party and state have decided to observe 2 days of national mourning. On their part, Lao leaders expressed their sincere gratitude for Vietnam's condolences and its decision to organize a national mourning for the late Lao top leader. During his visit, Party General Secretary Tô Lâm praised Laos for its preparations for the upcoming 12th National Party Congress and reaffirmed Vietnam's unwavering support in its efforts toward national development and prosperity. Lao leaders, in turn, acknowledged Vietnam's long-standing assistance and expressed their commitment to learning from Vietnam's experiences to drive progress and improve livelihoods. On this occasion, Party General Secretary Tô Lâm also held meetings with Lao Party General Secretary and President Thongloun Sisoulith, and Lao Prime Minister Sonexay Siphandone. Both sides reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening bilateral ties through regular high-level exchanges and effective cooperation, emphasizing their shared dedication to fostering the Vietnam-Laos-Cambodia trilateral relationship.
Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính chaired a meeting with key ministries and agencies on Thursday morning to discuss the new rounds of U.S. reciprocal tariffs against dozens of nations, including Vietnam. The meeting addressed the ongoing tariff situation and discussed immediate and long-term responses to promote stable and sustainable trade ties.
Following discussions with ministries and agencies, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính underscored the escalating complexity, unpredictability, and intensity of global trade competition. In response, Vietnam has implemented a comprehensive and coordinated response strategy across sectors and people-to-people exchanges. Vietnam urges the United States to adopt policies that reflect the strong bilateral relationship, the aspirations of both nations' people, and Vietnam's sustained efforts. Looking forward, the Prime Minister directed immediate and long-term measures to ensure a balanced and sustainable trade relationship with the U.S. These include creating a favorable environment for businesses from both countries to invest confidently while ensuring their legitimate rights and interests under the principle of harmonized benefits, shared risks.
Despite these challenges, Vietnam has a unique opportunity to demonstrate its resilience and national strength. We need to accelerate the development of an independent and self-reliant economy while deepening international integration. This includes diversifying markets, supply chains, and products and tapping potential domestic resources.
Prime Minister Phie emphasized that the current situation presents a critical opportunity to restructure the economy toward rapid yet sustainable growth. To this end, Vietnam must prioritize green and digital transformation, leverage scientific and technological advancements, and strengthen domestic enterprises. Regulatory frameworks and legal policies must also be continuously reviewed and revised.
In response to the recent announcement by the U.S. President imposing reciprocal tariff on multiple countries and territories, the Vietnamese government has taken swift action to assess the situation. The Prime Minister directed ministry and agencies to remain calm, act decisively, and adopt proactive, flexible, and timely responses to mitigate external shocks. He called for immediate consultations, particularly with major exporting enterprises. The Prime Minister ordered the establishment of a quick response team led by Deputy Prime Minister Bùi Thanh Sơn. Additionally, Deputy Prime Minister Hồ Đức Phước has been tasked with overseeing and directing ministries and agencies to actively engage with businesses. President Donald Trump's reciprocal tariffs are expected to generate up to $6 trillion for the U.S. budget. However, the move is also set to create significant disruptions in global trade. Major economies, including China and the European Union, have swiftly announced countermeasures in response to the new U.S. tariff. Meanwhile, financial markets worldwide saw a decline on Thursday.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen described President Trump's tariff policy as a heavy blow to the global economy.
I deeply regret this choice. Let's be clear-eyed about the immense consequences. The global economy will massively suffer. Uncertainty will spiral and trigger the rise of further protectionism.
The European Commission President has confirmed that the EU is prepared to impose a 20% reciprocal tariff on U.S. goods if negotiations with Washington fail. Meanwhile, New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon has also voiced criticism of the new U.S. tariffs.
New Zealand has been hit with the baseline 10% tariff that most countries have hit. Obviously, there's been other countries that have had a 30 to 40% impact as well on the tariffs that are being held to them.
The new U.S. tariffs have sent shockwaves through financial markets, with stock indices in the U.S., Japan, South Korea, and Vietnam all experiencing a downturn. Analysts warn that while the tariffs aim to strengthen the U.S. economy, they may hurt American businesses reliant on global supply chains, forcing them to raise prices or accept lower profit margins.
So we're looking at a huge increase in costs that we will have to figure out how to absorb as a business.
Analysts at J.P. Morgan caution that if President Donald Trump's administration maintains the high tariffs announced today, his unprecedented trade policies could push the U.S. and global economies into recession in 2025.
China has strongly opposed the U.S. decision to impose steep reciprocal tariff, with the China's Ministry of Commerce vowing resolute countermeasures to protect national interests. Calling the tariff unilateral and inconsistent with international trade rules, China warned that the move threatens U.S. economic interests and global supply chain stability. Under the new policy, the Chinese import will now face a 34% tariff on top of the 20% he previously imposed earlier this year, bringing the total new levies to 54% and close to the 60% figure. The impact was immediately felt in China's financial markets, with the yen weakening to over 7.3 per US dollar and stock indices in Shanghai and Shenzhen declining. Despite short-term disruptions to Chinese export, analysts suggest China is prepared for a prolonged trade standoff. The 46% reciprocal tariff rate on Vietnamese goods to the U.S. has caught the attention of the Vietnamese business community, including international enterprises. What are their thoughts on this? Let's listen to the following story.
They rip us off. It's so sad.
Despite the inevitability of U.S. tariffs on multiple countries, including Vietnam, businesses were taken aback by the unexpectedly high rate of 46%.
The shocking thing was the high number. It raises prices on the American people and American families, and therefore consumer demand is going to go down because people's wallets are going to feel thinner, and that's going to impact orders in Vietnam. It's very early right now. This just happened, so it's too difficult to see what one country or one company is going to do versus another. Trade is still going to happen. This isn't the end of anything.
However, the foreign business community remains optimistic, citing the strengthening relationship between Vietnam and the United States and the Vietnamese government's proactive and flexible bamboo diplomacy.
The U.S. and Vietnam are close friends, comprehensive strategic partners. They do well talking to each other. There's open lines of communication. Vietnam is taking the trade imbalance seriously, and Vietnam still has room to try to negotiate a good deal or a better deal, and we expect that things are still going to move forward.
I think the only optimism you can pick up here is that we generally have a government who tries really hard to build the relationship with US. We see that there is, a growing development in the trade between the European countries and Vietnam, and in that sense, this can end up being positive for both Vietnam and the Nordic countries.
While concerns persist about how the new tariff policy could influence investment decisions, foreign investors continue to trust Vietnam's improving business environment. They acknowledge the government's commitment to listening, sharing, and taking practical measures to foster a favorable investment climate, reinforcing their confidence in pursuing long-term business strategies in the country.
In addition to the government's determination and decisive actions in directing response to the U.S. decision to impose a reciprocal tariff on goods imported from Vietnam, businesses have also implemented solutions to cope, aiming to maintain the growth rate of export in key industries.
The U.S. is one of the major markets for Vietnam's textile and garment industry. Its exports to this market make up 10% of the country's total exports. The U.S. imposing a tariff on Vietnamese goods will affect the competitiveness of Vietnam's textile and garment products. However, businesses have taken comprehensive measures regarding the U.S. market.
Countries like Bangladesh and Cambodia, despite facing lower countervailing duties than us, should be viewed in the context that they previously benefited from a 0% tariff as developing nations. Now, with the new 46% tariff, it's essentially a 30% increase for us.
In recent years, textiles and footwear have consistently been among Vietnam's main export items, particularly to the U.S. The industry has prepared various plans to adapt production and business strategy.
We have 16 FTAs, and we aim to leverage the advantages these agreements provide as a priority. We consider this challenge a chance for enterprises to restructure production and cut costs.
The Minister of Industry and Trade has sent a note to the U.S. requesting a temporary suspension of the tariff decision to allow time for discussions and finding a reasonable solution for both sides.
Vietnam and the U.S. are two complementary economies. Their export structures and foreign trade do not compete directly but rather complement each other, aligning with each nation's internal needs. Vietnam's exports to the U.S. primarily compete with third-party countries, not directly with U.S. businesses in the U.S. market.
Tariff pressure is a significant challenge but also an opportunity for Vietnamese businesses to restructure, shift production, and diversify their markets to ensure continued growth.
Coming up next, Prime Minister demands specific competitive policies to develop international financial centers. And Vietnam, Armenia eye stronger bilateral ties. Prime Minister Phie chaired the inaugural meeting of the Steering Committee for Regional and International Financial Centers in Vietnam on Thursday. He acknowledged that establishing international financial centers represents a new challenge for Vietnam, asking competent stakeholders to adhere to the Politburo conclusions and Party General Secretary Tô Lâm directions on the issue. Prime Minister Phie stressed that the center should have independent policies and regulations that are superior to existing administrative centers while maintaining control mechanisms. It should also attract high-quality human resources from domestic and international markets. President of the Armenian National Assembly, Alan Simonian, hosted a ceremony to welcome Chairman of the Vietnamese National Assembly, Trần Thanh Mẫn, and his high-level Vietnamese delegations on their official visit to Armenia. Following the welcome ceremony, the two senior legislators engaged in productive talks on bilateral cooperation, focusing on economic, trade, and cultural ties.
During the talks, President of the Armenian National Assembly Alan Simonian and National Assembly Chairman Trần Thanh Mẫn agreed to increase the exchanges of high-level National Assembly leaders. They also concurred in enhancing cooperation and information exchange and sharing experience between specialized committees and National Assembly deputies in parliamentary activities, particularly in legislation and oversight. They emphasized the importance of monitoring and ensuring the effective implementation of bilateral and multilateral agreements signed by both governments, particularly those promoting economic and trade cooperation. Both countries agreed that economic and trade cooperation between the two countries has seen positive developments, citing a trade turnover of nearly $500 million in 2024. National Assembly Chairman Trần Thanh Mẫn urged Armenia to facilitate Vietnamese businesses' access to the Armenian market and the Eurasian Economic Union to bolster cooperation in this area. The Vietnamese top legislator proposed that Armenia encourage the organization of cultural exchange activities to deepen understanding among younger generations and foster friendship between the two peoples. He also suggested considering the establishment of an Armenia-Vietnam Friendship Association in Armenia. As an active member of ASEAN and the ASEAN Interparliamentary Assembly, the Vietnamese top legislator affirmed that Vietnam is ready to serve as a bridge for Armenia to expand cooperation with ASEAN-IPA and other member parliaments. Following the talks, the two legislators signed a cooperation agreement between the two legislative bodies.
On Thursday afternoon, National Assembly Chairman Trần Thanh Mẫn met with the head of the Armenia-Vietnam Parliamentary Friendship Group, Hamid Kaboyan, as part of his official visit to Armenia. Following the welcoming ceremony, the two senior-ranking legislators held talks, further strengthening the friendship and cooperation between Vietnam and Armenia and their peoples. The two leaders consented to increase exchanges of high-level National Assembly leaders, cooperation between parliamentary bodies, friendship groups, young parliamentary groups, women parliamentary groups, and legislators of both countries. The Armenian leader hoped that Vietnam would open an embassy in Armenia soon, establish a visa waiver agreement, and initiate direct flights to promote tourism, trade, and investment. Singapore has officially granted market access to select Vietnamese poultry, meat, and egg products. This marked a significant development for Vietnam livestock industry. The Singapore Food Agencies announced this decision following extensive inspections and assessments of Vietnamese production facilities. The agency has authorized the import of heat-processed poultry meat from CPV Food Corp Limited and Mid Delhi Hanoi Company Limited, along with canned and sterilized poultry, eggs, and meat, excluding beef, processed under high temperatures and pressure. These companies have met Singapore's strict requirements, including implementing robust traceability systems and comprehensive worker training. The approval is seen as a crucial stepping stone, paving the way for other Vietnamese businesses to penetrate the lucrative Singaporean market. Coming up next, a man rescued after 120 hours trapped in earthquake rubble in Myanmar. And Vietnam continues efforts to clear war-era explosives. A miraculous rescue took place in Mandalay, where international teams pulled a man alive from the rubble of a collapsed hotel building 120 hours after the devastating earthquake. Despite the prolonged entrapment, the survivor was found in stable conditions and has been transferred to a local hospital for treatment. Meanwhile, Myanmar's military government has announced a temporary ceasefire in its operations against armed opposition forces effective until April 22nd to aid earthquake recovery efforts. The disaster has already claimed over 3,000 lives, with more than 340 people still missing. The Central Highlands campaign ended in triumph on April 3, 1975, marking a decisive turning point in Vietnam history. After 30 years of revolutionary struggle, the vast Central Highlands and coastal provinces of Bình Định, Phie, and Khánh Hòa were finally liberated. This victory stood as a testament to the unyielding resilience and sacrifices of the Central Highlands people. Their story exemplified the power of unity and the people's war strategy.
In 1994, local authorities and military units rebuilt the longhouses as a gift to Ia Draw villagers. Before liberation, around 20 such houses stood in the village. The enemy, suspecting villagers of aiding the revolutionary cause with supplies, burned everything to the ground. Since then, Ia Draw has been known as the Burned Village.
Officials had to convince the people against taking the enemy's side. The enemy forces planned to make this village one of their bases, but ultimately failed. They only trashed the entire place after everyone had made a run for it.
An informant told the people to run for the forests and that there were already soldiers waiting.
At 97 years old, Lê Chí Quyết still vividly recalls the days when he was sent to the southern Central Highlands to help expand the K-61 resistance base. He remembers how the people of Ia Draw called the K-61 secretary Amaki, who narrowly escaped the death thanks to the villagers.
At night, I would sneak into the village to spread the revolutionary message. One time, the enemy surrounded the village. They banned anyone from entering, and no one inside could leave. I picked up a burning stick and waved it. They recognized it as a villager's signal, so I escaped. The enemy questioned Yi Soy, demanding to know who had carried the fire. Why Soy took the fall. The young people were so brave.
My heart is always with my people. While the villagers worked in their fields, I worked with them. They alerted me when there was an enemy. You could trust the Central Highlands people with sheltering soldiers and cadres.
Ia Draw is just one of many villages in the Central Highlands that embody the strength of the people's war strategy. It was the people's unwavering determination to protect revolutionary secrets that proved crucial. This unbreakable bond between the people and the revolution became one of the driving forces behind the victory on April 30th, 1975.
At the end of 2024, an estimated 5.6 million hectares of land across Vietnam will still be contaminated by hundreds of thousands of tons of unexploded ordnance from past wars. This lingering threat endangers life, hampers socio-economic development, and contributes to environmental pollution. Even major cities continue to face high levels of contamination. The clearance of wartime explosives in densely populated areas requires strict procedures and modern technology to ensure safety, protect lives and property, and maintain security and public order.
3 M118 bombs, weighing approximately 1.3 tons and still containing live fuses, were discovered in Hanoi in late 2024. The engineering command was forced to relocate the bombs due to the extreme danger posed by detonating them in a populated area.
We used sandblasting to expose it, then moved it to a safe place using boats and winches, and finally transported it to the disposal area using specialized vehicles and cranes.
After being moved to a safe location, the bombs are handled using two methods. The most common method is detonation. In cases where the bomb casings need to be preserved or the explosives reused, a steam removal method is used.
The essence of the steam removal method is that we use high-temperature, high-pressure steam and inject it directly into the explosives inside the bomb. The explosives melt and flow out into a prepared container.
The equipment used in the steam removal method is highly flexible and mobile, enabling the disposal of various types of bombs and mines in different terrains.
We have been provided with information from the U.S. side and from our experience in handling bombs and mines during and after the war, so we have grasped the principles of structure and detonation methods and have built safe disposal procedures.
Strict procedures and advanced technology enable military engineers to handle bombs and explosives quickly and accurately, minimizing risks in densely populated areas.
Throughout Vietnam's revolutionary history, the image of the people's soldier has become an iconic symbol in literature and art. In peacetime, this once classic symbolism, which had seemed distant to younger generations, has found new life through contemporary artistic expressions. And through these creative efforts, today youth have formed a natural and heartfelt connection with the past.
The song Áo mùa đông, A Winter's Waistcoat, was composed in 1946 during a harsh winter when President Ho Chi Minh initiated a campaign to provide warm uniforms for soldiers. Nearly 80 years later, the powerful melody of this song still resonates strongly through the passionate renditions of young artists.
As a Vietnamese citizen, singing powerful songs about the nation's proud history fills me with a sense of pride.
Young artists' creativity on stage has captivated millions of viewers on social media platforms. Their performance serves as a refreshing reminder of the nation's revolutionary cause and the generations that made it a success.
Young people may gradually become disconnected from the nation's history. It is our responsibility to preserve these historical values and revitalize them through modern approaches.
This artistic evolution continues with modern and innovative creations that extend the soldier's legacy. A music video by a young director has attracted over 1 billion views on TikTok and 6 million views on YouTube. To commemorate the 18th anniversary of Southern Vietnam's liberation and the country's reunification, a special music video incorporating AI, virtual reality, and 3D technology has been released.
The purpose of this music video is not only to revive the heroic history of the soldiers who fought for the complete liberation of southern Vietnam, but also to inspire the younger generation. Watching it, viewers can find motivation to become respectable citizens and develop a deeper sense of pride for our homeland.
These artistic creations go beyond mere entertainment. They represent the younger generation's commitment to preserving and honoring the rich history.
And now, as usual, let's continue with the weather forecast. That is for this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can log on to VTVgo.vn or download our mobile application VTVgo. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.